Greetings and welcome to this beautiful Easter weekend. Happy Easter. This video is going to be going out on Easter Sunday. I hope you're having a lovely time with family, friends, all that sort of thing. Welcome to the Amex Stadium. Just going past the Brighton Hove Albion Stadium there, right, as I negotiate this roundabout. So today I want to talk about the age-old debate. The debate that has filled my comment section ever since I started this YouTube channel, like 2 years ago. People have been fiercely debating this in my comment section, and it's, is Keir Starmer left-wing enough? Is he a Labour Tory? Will he just bring further austerity when he gets into power? Now, I've been fairly sympathetic to both sides of these arguments. I think a lot of it is generational, which I'll get into later, but the reason I want to talk about it is because Owen Jones this week came out, didn't he, saying that he's pulling his support for Labour. Lifelong Labour supporter, will no longer be voting for Labour, and he's encouraging people to vote for alternatives, vote for the Greens, independents. But also it's important to say to vote for more left-leaning Labour MPs as well. Now, a couple of things that I want to talk about on this topic. The main ones being really is, will this affect Labour? Could this damage Labour? But also, is it a positive? Is it a positive thing? So yeah, first of all, is this going to damage Labour? Would it have any effects of the left-leaning folks in this country not voting for Labour? And to be honest, no, I can't see it. I can't see it. But one thing it can do is send a message. I mean, let's look at the stats here. So if you try and sort of take a grasp of how many people in this country sort of share Owen Jones's politics, or just generally more to the left, I guess you could look at sort of subscriber count for Novara Media is near on 1 million. The amount of people that vote for the Greens each election is floating around the 1 million count. But then if you take into consideration the ones that would like to vote Green but can't through first past the post, I think max you could say there's probably about 2 million people in this country that would have those sort of similar Owen Jones style politics that are spread out in all different constituencies. Can they damage the Labour result, the Labour inevitable win? Because, I mean, come on, let's get serious here, guys. Let's get real. Labour are on for a stonking majority. We know this. I know we have this British mentality here of caution and like, oh, you know, nothing's set in stone, you have to be cautious. Come on. They're on for a massive, massive victory. And this is the point that I'm making, is that you're intelligent people. You know that with first past the post in this country, elections are not won from the votes from people that are generally politically engaged every single day. Elections are won by floating voters, average folks, the people that are generally not really engaged in politics day to day. And that does make up the majority of this country. Whether that's a good or bad thing, you can have a conversation about that, but it's just fact. It's fact. The majority of people are not politically engaged, and that's where the elections are won, on floating voters. And the people that have the mentality generally of they're very, very scared of drastic change. They don't want anything too drastic, but they have come to the conclusion now, after 14 years, that the Tories are god-awful and they have ruined this country. Everyone has accepted that now. I mean, it's only the pure cultists that are still going to vote for the Tories in the next election. The floating voters have come to terms with the fact that they are god-awful, and they will go with Labour because they're not too extreme, they're not trying to do anything crazy radical. That's where the election is won, and they are going to have a big majority. So I don't think really, let's let this chap out, that 2 million that we discussed of more left-leaning people trying to send a message is really going to do too much damage. And I'm always nervous anyway of absolute stonking majorities, because this is the argument on the other side, isn't it, that we must do absolute tactical voting and vote for Labour in every single constituency you can if you hate the Tories. If you don't do that, you're enabling the Tories. This is the attitude, isn't it? They should have 400 MPs. I don't think that's good for anyone. I'm uncomfortable with massive stonking majorities on whatever political party, even if it's a political party that I strongly agree with. I just don't think massive majorities are a good thing. You need to have a decent opposition, and you need to have influences from outside that are going to curve a Labour government policy. I mean, imagine if you went through, if all those 2 million voters went extreme tactical voting, and it's been talked about, the Tories could not even be in opposition, they could lose so bad. So what would the opposition be? The Lib Dems? Well, it would be, if tactical voting was taken into... Would that be a healthy government? A stonking majority for Labour and a Lib Dem opposition. I mean, what the hell do the Lib Dems stand for? I mean, they do a few posts on the sewage stuff, but I mean, God, that would be a limp-wristed opposition, wouldn't it? It really would. So the second thing, it won't do any damage. I can't see it doing any damage, and I think people are sensible with it as well. I mean, the people that lean more left in their politics, obviously, they don't want another Tory government. Of course they don't, and they're sensible with it. I think if you live, what's the camera doing that? If you live in a safe Labour seat, send a message, vote for the Greens. Obviously, if you live in one of the target seats for the Greens, I'd encourage anyone. I think it's Bristol, Norwich, and here in Brighton. Vote for the Greens, definitely. If you live in a swing seat, I'd still probably encourage you to vote tactically, but that's on you, that's your conscience. And everyone has this sort of, our vote is so crucial and it's so sacred, but don't mean shit. Who Owen Jones votes for don't mean shit. Who I vote for, it doesn't mean shit. Like I say, it's the swing voters, it's the average people that matters in this election. And I'd encourage anyone to vote for the Greens. Do you know what? I just thought of something that just popped in. How long does it take to move to a constituency and register to vote? If you really wanted to go crazy with tactical voting, imagine that 2 million left-wing voter base. If they all moved for a couple of weeks to Bristol, Norwich, other areas, could you get like an Airbnb for a couple of weeks? And then say that you're living there and registered to vote? That would be good. If everyone just descended, all those voters just descended on Bristol, Norwich, you could get like 4 or 5 Green MPs in. That would be really, really good. But anyway, I'm digressing massively. Getting back to the thing, is it positive? I think generally it's positive. If it's done like I just said, people are sensible. If you live in a swing seat, you may be a bit more reluctant. But I think Labour need to be sent a message. They need to be fearful of the Greens, of the left. They need to be constantly in fear of losing votes to them, to push policy in that direction. It's overall, I think it's a very positive thing. Now, me personally, I had it easy for years because I lived in central Brighton. And it was just easy. I voted for Caroline Lucas. I voted for the Greens because I don't care where you sit on the political spectrum. We need people in Parliament like that, pushing those issues. We really do. But then I moved to East Brighton, where it's a bit more of a swing constituency. It's been Tory before. It has been Labour the last few years. But I can vote with my conscience in this next election. My MP is Russell Lloyd, who's a fantastic MP. He was one of the first to come out for a ceasefire in Gaza against the Labour whip. He's constantly in Parliament talking about enabling councils to build council housing, and he's a great MP. So I can, with my conscience, quite happily vote Labour in the next election. But not everyone has that. But yeah, the fierce battle. I want to get back to the fierce battle that we always have on this topic, and I think a lot of it is generational. I always think about the generation that turns 20 in 2010 and have basically sort of grown up their whole adult life. They're now 34. All they've known is Tory austerity. All they've known is crumbling public services. So no wonder they're so, what's the word? Patriotic? No, that's the wrong word. You know what I mean? Why they're so staunch for massive change. I completely understand that. That's why I'm so sympathetic to these arguments. But for me personally, I was 18 in 2002. I turned 16 on the millennium. I'm a millennial, right? So I've experienced both. I grew up in my 20s with a Labour government. and I experienced austerity in my 30s. I've seen the massive difference between the two governments, and of course the Tony Blair Labour Party was not perfect. They should have done so much more on housing. But I think a lot of people of my generation that experienced that Labour government and experienced austerity, I understand why they're crying out for Starmer in a way, because you have that warm, fuzzy feeling of that period. I know I do. I've often talked about when I was 18, I moved out with my best friend. We rented a flat, 2-bedroom flat in the centre of town. We both had minimum wage jobs. We could afford to rent a 2-bedroom flat in the centre of town on minimum wage jobs. We went out every weekend. We went to gigs. We went to music festivals. We had foreign holidays to Greece, you know, and you didn't wait forever. The NHS waiting times were down. Pensioners were better off. Less homelessness. Who heard of a food bank during the 2000s? You know, all these things. So I understand why people have warm, fuzzy feeling for that period and want that back and feel that Starmer is going to give that. You know, I'm sympathetic to both sides of these arguments. That's why I think the best outcome, well, the outcome that we know that's going to happen is that Keir Starmer is going to win the next election. But I don't think there's any harm in sending a clear message and having a good vote share for the Greens to push them in more radical policy, because I feel for that generation. Like I just said, that generation that turned 18 in 2010 and has only known Tory austerity want massive change. They really do. What's your thoughts, guys? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like the video, click a like. If you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe up top. There'll be another video, you can check that out as well. I'm going to be going on holiday soon, but don't worry, I've got loads of backed up videos, loads of exciting backed up videos that are going to be coming over the next few weeks. So look forward to them. I'll put some of them up on screen. Till next time, take care.